it's the tour, it's cycling. You know, there were some issues at the beginning of the tour that get exploited a little bit. That's just the nature of the times we're living in within this sport. But I do think it's important that we talk about. Let's not forget to actually talk about the race. Sometimes I get the impression that too many journalists come to the tour for one reason, and that's just to write the dope story. And granted, if somebody crosses the line and breaks the rules, you got to write the story. But at the end of the day, you also got to sit back and analyze the great stuff that happens, the great performance of a team like Astana today, or the closeness to Saxo, or all of these things that really make up the dynamic and the beauty of cycling. So let's hope we're getting there. But I don't have any predictions. We at one point thought we had it, but if I look back on our performance, it would be one thing if I could say, well, we did this wrong, we had a flat tire, we had a crash, or the team didn't perform as well as we thought. That would be a disappointment. But the team was perfect, and we lost a couple of guys, which we expected to do. But technically speaking, we were as sound as we could be, and so I have no regrets. I don't look at that and lose sleep or get disappointed. That's just that's when they stop the clock, and we get to deal with it. But this is a long race. Maybe there's one in my future.
I don't suppose to answer your question. I just asking if you have a reaction.
Well, my reaction to Mr. Clerk.
This is the former CEO of ISO. I just wondering what is your reaction?
Exactly, and when you look at any company or any organization, and you have dissension among the ranks, you have corruption among the ranks, you have to look at the boss. He was the boss. Under his reign and under his leadership, cycling was not perfect. The question really ought to be turned back to him. So, I understand he's upset that he no longer has a job. But the fact that I'm back here is the return of doubt. I would turn the question around and analyze the 4 years that I was gone under his leadership. 12 months ago, I expected that. I expected to and this is a confession, I expected it to be easier. So yes, I expected it. 6 months ago, I did not expect it. I realized, oh shit, this is harder than I thought. And that's the truth. And as has been reported in the press, and as John wrote in his book, I was disrespectful to Carlos Sastre, Christian Venable, the guys who were a presence in last year's tour, and that was not correct. This is not easy, and it will not be easy to win if I'm lucky enough to win again. There's two answers to your question. 12 months ago, yes, I expected to be here. 6 months ago, I didn't expect it. In the Giro, I didn't expect it. And today, I'm realistic. I got both feet on the ground. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to get last. But it won't be like 2004, 2005, 2001. It's going to be a hell of a lot harder than I expected. And that's as honest as I can say it.
How do you feel and how do you realize you're back after 4 years, minus 17 days? And in those 4 stages, there was more excitement than in the last 4 tours. How do you feel? What do you feel about this, that you brought the spectacular back to the tour?
Well, Armin, you're always nice to me, and I appreciate that. You know, I didn't, to be honest, I didn't pay much attention the last 4 years, but I have to imagine that there was plenty of excitement. And a day like yesterday is exciting because it's a surprise, and nobody expected that. Yes, we saw there was wind, and perhaps there was a group in the front, but we all expect that group contains the 8 leaders, the 10 leaders of the tour. It was a surprise that only one of them was there. And on that, I think there was some questions about that tactic and why I was there. And it's always interesting to me that a press room that ought to know so much about cycling would even question that. You're in the front, the wind hits, and there's a selection made. The question is, why aren't you there? This ought to be the question. But it's, I know that days like yesterday are very lucky sometimes, and tomorrow, believe me, that could be completely turned around. We could all be in the back, and Cadell Evans could be in the front, and then everybody says, look at you guys, what happened to you? And so it's better to be thankful that it happened and you were on the good side, but this tour will be exciting. I mean, I think to answer your question, they've designed a great route. You're not going to write your final story until we're all on the top of Mont Ventoux. I think that's a guarantee, and that's good for you all. That's good for the people. That's maybe not good for the riders, but it's good for this event.
Can your team afford to have more than one protected rider on that stage? And do you think you've earned the right to be that protected rider?
Yeah, I think for that stage we can. Yeah, I mean, and I say that because it's the first mountain day, and other teams will have an interest. So there are these question marks over who is really going to assert themselves. Is it us with Alberto and myself and Levi, whoever, or is it Carlos Astor, or is it Evans, or is it Mitchell? There are these questions. So those teams also have an interest in that stage. If you just look at us and we say, okay, 2 guys don't do anything, you still have 7. And so I think for that day, it's certainly possible. Also taking into account the other teams with responsibility. After that day, then it becomes a different situation, and we'll have to talk then. But, I think we both go in protected and see what happens on the top of Arcolis. I mean, I think there's 2 ways to define leader within this team. You can be the strongest one, who's the leader who wins. But you can also, if you're not the strongest, you can also be the team leader because you have experience, because you have age, because you have the trust of the other riders. That might be my role. But as I told Alberto before the stage, I said, listen, don't worry, I think we'll win. But what we have to do is ride a perfect race so that the others, okay, it's nice to win the stage, but I think today the Tour de France is finished for some riders. And we won't go into names, but with the way that the team time trial works now, before they had the 20 seconds, 20 seconds, 20 seconds, now with the current situation, whereas team classification or team time counts for individual time, you can look at the results. It's difficult, and with no disrespect, it's difficult to make up that time. So at my point to Alberto is, look, let's ride perfect and make this race almost impossible to win for others. And so I think we did. I think we can say we accomplished that.